Ever since I was a kid, I've loved comic books. I loved reading comic books, I loved watching comic book movies, and like many young artists, I wanted to make my own comic books. I wanted to make my own stories and make my own original characters. There's one problem though. I'm incredibly slow at drawing. Most weekly series put out about 20 pages every week, and some monthly series can put out as many as 50 every month. But between the time that my friend and I decided that we were going to make our own series back in 2022 and January 15th of 2026, I had drawn 12 pages. But luckily, an opportunity presented itself. That being that I dropped out of university. Sort of. Anyway, now this was a time that I had more freedom than I might ever have again, so I knew that I needed to make it count. So after I got back from the holidays at home, I knew that I needed to do something bold. Something ambitious, something maybe even hazardous to my own health. But whatever it took, I was going to make this happen. So then it hit me. I was going to lock myself inside until I make this manga. And that's exactly what I did. So, here are the rules. I was going to start drawing on Monday the 19th after I got back, and I would have until Saturday the 31st to finish chapter 1. During this time, I was not allowed to go outside. After I was done, I would show my friend Kale, the co-creator and the main writer for our series Eclipse, the finished product. Thankfully, we already finished the script and the storyboards, and I already finished 12 pages, but in total, chapter 1 would amount to 46 pages plus a cover page. So this meant that I had to draft, ink, and shade 35 pages and make a cover page, all in 13 days. This is a pretty standard amount for most professional artists, but I'm a beginner, and I have no experience making a comic book or a manga or any series of any kind. Plus, I was drawing digitally, which isn't really my main trade. This was going to be the biggest project that I've ever done. So I knew that I needed to give myself as much time as I possibly could, but I had no idea how difficult it would really be. Hey, I'm just editing this right now, and I've gotten to the end of the video. It's like 35 minutes long, and I just now realized that I actually never gave a description of what the story is actually about. So like, literally for 35 minutes, you just have no clue what the manga's about, who the characters are, what happens. So I figured I should probably do that, as that's kind of important to whether or not you care about anything that I do in the rest of this video. So here's just a quick rundown of what it's actually about. The manga that Kale and I created is called Eclipse. The main character, Sakurai Eiji, is a bit of a loser who lives at home with his dysfunctional family. One day at work, he runs into Hirano Shuji, whose family harbors a dark secret. It turns out that Eiji and Shuji's family have a history that dates back centuries, and the Hiranos want their revenge. They lure Eiji into their house with the intention of taking back a power that his ancestor stole from their family. In a bid to escape, Eiji makes a desperate deal with Tsukuyomi, the moon god, to save his life, but in doing this he unknowingly signs his life away to catastrophic consequences. If that sounds interesting to you, then you can read the full chapter in the link in the description below. Anyway, back to the actual video. I started off not really having a plan. I woke up at 6 that morning, I ate breakfast, and then I sort of messed around watching YouTube videos until around 8 or 9. I told myself that I would take minimal breaks, I would work through the whole day, every day. I was still getting back into the rhythm of drawing. Plus, I don't really think it dawned on me how short of a time span I actually had to finish this chapter, so I didn't move with the same urgency that I would later on. So, to set myself up for success, I set my alarm for 7 a.m. the next morning, and I went to bed at 11 that night. This was also when I realized my shortcomings as a YouTuber, because I figured out that with my old phone, which dies after about an hour of being on without being plugged in, I couldn't record a time lapse of myself. So you're just going to be stuck watching me talk for a while, with maybe even an occasional picture, like hopefully I put something up and I don't look stupid. Yeah, and I also couldn't figure out OBS in time to start recording like speed paints or anything like that. If I ever do a video like this again, I will figure that out before I start the project, so then it actually is a more polished and watchable video. Day 2 is where I really started to think about what the next 2 weeks were going to look like. I knew that I needed to work faster, so I drafted up a schedule, and I based that off of a Shonen Jump mangaka schedule, which was conducive to productivity, but not necessarily quality of life. But I figured, what the heck, it's only for 2 weeks, I can sacrifice a little bit of sleep in exchange for my greatest artistic achievement yet. The schedule didn't go into effect until the following day, but it gave me a more concrete format to shape my day by. That night, I decided to get my last full night of sleep before things got really intense. Day 3 was the first day of implementing my new schedule, and as simple as it seems, I actually think it helped a lot. By splitting the day into drafting and completing pages, I was a lot less distracted by trying to fix little details in each panel and instead think about the more overall look of the page. This way I was able to put a little bit of distance between myself and each page, and then I could figure out what actually needed to be fixed and what could stay the way it was. Not only was this my most prolific day so far by drafting 5 pages and finishing 3, but there was also a noticeable shift in art quality. Some of the pages have art that has a more simplified style to make the process faster, but I also think that I have a good sense of what pages need a little bit more attention for their quality and impact. I planned to draw until 11 that night, but I ended up drawing until 12:30 since I was just so locked in. But this was probably a mistake. I think I'm starting to see the effects of my new sleep schedule. I'm getting around 6 hours, probably closer to 5 hours-ish each night of sleep. Part of me doesn't really want to work this morning, part of me just wants to go back to sleep, but I know that that is not the mentality of a winner, so...
Dude! Who's gonna carry the boats and the logs? That's you, buddy!
Like, I knew that it would be difficult going in. I knew that there would be moments where I don't want to draw anymore. I don't want to sit here in front of my computer for 13 hours a day. But this is like my dream project, you know? And so it might seem a little odd that I'm pushing myself this hard and kind of forcing myself to do something that in theory should bring me joy and pleasure. At this point though, I think the most important thing is productivity, and once I get to the end of this month, I think I can take a break, I can, go outside, I can do whatever, but I want to be able to have a full chapter, and I want to be able to have art that I can share, because I kind of need to get this off the ground as soon as I can. I took a 2-hour lunch that day and took that time to wash dishes and clean up because I'd kind of been letting the place fall apart, and I did this in complete silence because until this point I had either been watching YouTube videos or watching a show or listening to something in the background. So this was one of the first times in the past 4 days where I didn't have some kind of input, and I greatly appreciated this silence. And then it was back to drawing for the rest of the day. I really dropped the ball day 5. I was the least productive I had been all week. I spent more time thinking about drawing than I did actually drawing, so I decided that the following day I would sleep in to about 8 o'clock instead of the usual 7, and I was not allowed to open YouTube. Even if it's art related, it's still too easy to fall into this trap of doom scrolling and suddenly a whole day is lost, and I can't afford that. To further avoid this, I'll also be listening to music on my MP3 player or listening to nothing at all. Tomorrow I will officially have 1 week left, and I'm not quite halfway done. It was time to lock in. 6 in the morning. I just woke up. I'm not excited about this. The thing is, I'm doing this to myself. I could stop at any time, but that's what quitters do, and that ain't me. So, I guess I should get up and make breakfast because I gotta start drawing at 7. I got a pretty late start, I'm not gonna lie. But I did do some work on the cover page for chapter 1. I gotta say, I think it might be the best piece of work I've done for this comic so far. I think I've been staring at it for like the past 5 minutes. I'm enamored with it, and that's, I think, perhaps the best feeling you can feel as an artist is when you can just look at your artwork and be like, man, I feel proud of this. Like, I am so happy with the way that it turned out. Yes, it did. It took me 8 pages. I've made 8 pages in the last 6 days. Is that right? That can't, hold on. So it's more like I've done 10 or 11 pages in the span of about 6 days. So what that means is if I have 23 pages to go, and I'm gonna not count today because there's an hour and a half until it's tomorrow. I have a week. I have a week to do 23 pages, which means I have to do 3 pages a day. A little more than 3 pages a day. Okay. That's not great. That's not great. But could be worse, you know. I better get back to drawing. So instead of changing deadlines, I doubled down. I did away with the original schedule and replaced it with an even harsher one. Now I would get 5 hours of sleep every night and work for 16 or 17 hours every day. This would amount to a 120-hour work week, which is actually not that far off from professional mangakas. So for the following week, I would be even closer to a professional mangaka's schedule than before. Again, I'm doing this to myself. At this point, I really missed going outside. Sometimes I wanted to take a break, and when I was at my most tired, I questioned if it was worth it at all. But something within me, whether it was stubbornness or whether it was passion, told me to keep pushing forward.
Coward! You make me sick. We have a manga to finish. Pages to draw. Get back to work.
Oh my gosh. Just give me one. I had a thought and then it was gone. It's already 7:20. I've been up for like 12 hours already. I've been drawing for 11 hours. Like, I'm making a lot of progress. I think this new schedule, where I then break up line work and shading into 2 separate blocks, I think that's very helpful. You have to understand that I am so incredibly tired. Like, I'm running on 4.5 hours of sleep. 5.5 today, but just like I am running on an average of about 5 hours of sleep every day, and I am working for the other 19 hours essentially. Like, okay, maybe like 17.5, because if you take into account all the eating and stuff. But still, that's... I also started to ask myself how long it would take to actually make this comic thing work long term. Asking not so fun questions like, Is it better to post the comic on sites or to make our own website? Or how are we going to monetize the comic? How are we going to make money? Even on 4 hours of sleep every night, I was still kept up by these questions. Part of me wonders if anyone's going to watch this at all. So as I'm like getting deeper into like finishing this project, I've just been recording less and less. One, because I'm just like trying to be locked in, like super locked in. And then on the other hand, I feel like I have nothing like important to say in these updates other than like I'm still working on it, you know? Uh, in other news, my neck is incredibly sore and somehow is spread up to my lower back head and behind my eyeballs, which I didn't even know was a thing, but it's uncomfortable and I don't like it. Ooh, shocker, you know? Hi. Oh, are we gonna get a... Yeah? No? Not gonna do it now? Oh, there we go. Hi. Say hi, Thomas. Part of me is uh, a little worried that the quality of it won't be up to my standards, but I have very high standards for myself. So it'll be what it'll be, and I find that oftentimes when I'm showing people my projects, they're often a lot more forgiving than I am, which is great because if everyone was as judgmental of my art as I was, I would be a very sad individual. My mouth is also incredibly dry, and as you can see, the bags under my eyes are getting worse and worse with each passing day. Uh, I thought I had uh, I thought I had eye drops. I was wrong. I don't have eye drops, so my eyes are just really dry and red. I don't know if it shows up on cam. I'm not gonna do that. Never mind. Uh, anyway, I'm gonna stop talking and I'm gonna get these 3 pages, not 3. I'm gonna get these 2 pages done, and then I'm going to go to sleep. Day 8, I started the day with high expectations, but those expectations quickly... Day 8, I started with very high expectations for the day, but they quickly fizzled as I entered in the most complex part of the comic so far, which was a fight scene. Up until this point, it's been a lot of talking and conversing and moving from one person speaking to another person speaking, and that was it. So having more complex actions, more dynamic movements, this was uncharted territory for me. And I think some of the poses and some of the panels were getting more fluid, but at the same time it felt at this point in the process just like a slog. It was the same thing day in, day out. The days started to blend together, and at this point, I was just more looking forward to getting to the end of the challenge than actually working on the comic. Day 9, I wrote nothing at all because I was really tired and I didn't want to write anything. That's all I have for that day. Despite the fact that I still have about a week to go, I was kind of over this whole thing. We're in the trenches. We're chugging through. My eyes are so tired of staring at a screen that's a foot away from my face for 18 hours a day. Obviously, my back hurts, my shoulders hurt, my neck hurts. I'm excited to see the sun again. I only catch glimpses of the outside every once in a while, so even though it's gonna be like -5 outside on February 1st, I'm still gonna go outside because I think that'd be good for my soul. It's probably not ideal to be sitting in a small room for 2 weeks straight. I'm sure that's not great for the old noggin, the old melon. I don't know why I'm talking like this. Yeah, I won't lie, I'm getting a little sick of this schedule. But, you know, there's the light at the end of the tunnel. I only have to do this for 4 more days. So, that's at least giving me something to look forward to rather than dread. I think the deadline I won't have a problem meeting. Um, it's just a matter of making it across the finish line with my sanity intact and then being able to move on with my life and do better, healthier things. Alright, it's Wednesday. I have 3.5 days left until I have to be completely finished. I'm hard at work drawing this fight scene, but as I'm like planning it out and starting to do the sketches, something dawned on me. It looks like garbage. That was the revelation. Is it looks horrible. Hi. Guest appearance. Anything to say? True. Anyway, so I'm taking a little detour today to learn more about drawing fight choreography as well as just like some other stuff to make it look good, because I don't want it to just look so flat and static, the whole fight scene. Like I know it's the first time I've done anything like this and it's not going to turn out perfect, but I at least want it to look decent at the very least. In all likelihood, it probably won't, and I'm trying to like get used to that idea that it's not going to look like how I think it should look in my head. But yeah, so I'm going to take an hour or two to learn what I can about drawing fight scenes and then come back and try to apply what I've learned. This was actually a really fun and welcome detour from the regular schedule of just drawing page after page. What I did was I went through some of the manga that I had, and I wanted to find dynamic poses, whether they were just very fluid poses or whether they had a lot of foreshortening, and just kind of analyze what made them look the way that they did, and then try to replicate that. And then I went back in and I highlighted some of the more important lines as well as the direction of motion that the entire picture itself tended to make, and just in general the composition of the drawing. In total, this took me about 30 minutes to draw and analyze the pictures, and then right after that it was just right back into drawing. Okay, this is probably like the only time that you're gonna see like the behind the scenes of the actual drawing process, because I never figured out how to like record a speed paint or set up a camera to do like a time lapse of myself drawing. But I was like I was working on a page, right? And I was trying to like experiment a little bit, you know, do some angles I'm not really comfortable with, you know, try to like, you know, really push myself as an artist. Hold on, let me turn this up. Okay, so like I'm working on it, I'm like, hey, that looks pretty good. And so I zoom out. Dude, it's the Freerin meme. Oh my god, it looks so bad. Like, I understand that it's like, words fail me right now. I haven't been checking in a lot, which is, that's on me. That's, yeah, a better YouTuber would be recording more often than I have for the entire time. A better YouTuber would have done a lot of different things, but I'm just me, and that's okay. Anyway, it's currently 1:30 on Friday, which means I have today, and I'm gonna try to finish before the end of the day tomorrow, because it's gonna be sunny outside tomorrow. It'll be +5. It'll be so nice to go outside and like just exist in the fresh air and hear birds and like feel the sun on my skin. I feel like that's ideal after spending 2 weeks inside. All right, it's 2:30. I just finished the line art for the last 5 pages. I was hoping that I could get them done tonight, but I'm just gonna go to sleep, and then I'm gonna wake up tomorrow, and then I'm just gonna finish them, and then they're gonna be done, and then I will have finished my manga in less than 2 weeks. Like, from, hold on, what day was that? From Monday, the 19th, to Saturday, the 31st, I finished 35 pages. 35 in 2 weeks. And I, as a beginner with no experience in this is the first time I've ever done this amount of drawing ever. Like, it feels great. Day 13 was January 31st. This was the last day that I was going to work on Chapter 1. Regardless of how it went, regardless of how it looked, this was going to be the last day that I had to finish Chapter 1. I intended to wake up at 7, the same as I would any other day for the past 2 weeks, but this time I let myself sleep in by accident. But it didn't matter. I was so close. I could practically taste it. I was exhausted, but at the same time I was so energized and so excited to go outside and so proud of the work that I had accomplished. I told myself just one last push, and I would actually be done. After 2 weeks of mind-numbing work, after 2 weeks of sitting in the same chair in front of the same computer for 18 hours a day, every day with no breaks, I would actually be done. And at 1:44 p.m. on Saturday, January 31st, I finished the final page of Chapter 1. It's done. It's fully complete. All 46 pages are finished. They're colored, they're lettered, and they're in the Google Drive. I was trying to figure out what I should say at the end of this, and like, I don't know. I'm so excited that this actually, it panned out, and I was able to finish it, and I was able to do it on time, and I was able to make it look decent. I'm so happy. I'm so proud of what I've been able to accomplish in these past 2 weeks. Like, I know that I pushed myself harder than I probably should have, or probably needed to. But man, does it feel great to know that this is such an achievement for me. Like, this is the biggest undertaking I've ever done when it came to art. This is the most I've ever drawn for one project, ever. And it feels great. Like, I'm about to go outside. It's sunny out. It's 4 degrees outside. But I'm done. I'm finished. I finished 35 pages in less than 2 weeks. And for me, for a humble beginner, I'm gonna say that's a win. I don't see how it couldn't be, you know? Like, I'm so happy right now. And I'm about to go outside for the first time in 2 weeks. In the end, what I was thinking about to stay motivated wasn't beating another YouTuber or the engagement that this video was going to bring in for this manga or fame and fortune or anything else. It was how happy I was to finally have a concrete copy of this story that's been living inside of my head that I could actually look at and read and share with other people. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was tangible. This was such a milestone for me and for this project, and it gave me hope that we could actually make this story a reality. And more importantly, I was ready to step outside for the first time in 2 weeks. And I told myself that I wouldn't think too much, which is actually a lot harder for me to do than it sounds. So instead I just took some notes of my observations and just how I was feeling after that time, just kind of like a stream of consciousness. And I wanted to share a little bit of what I wrote along with some videos that I took to match the atmosphere.
Today marks the first time I step outside of my condo in 2 weeks. I was stunned by how warm it was outside. It was like the world was welcoming me back in its own way. At first, I listened to music on my walk to the ravine to enhance the experience, but instead found that nothing enhanced it more than listening to the uninterrupted crunching of the snow beneath my feet. The occasional bird or squirrel, or simply the gentle breeze rustling through the branches. For the first time in 2 weeks, I was completely unencumbered. No deadlines, no guilt over wasted time, no music or video essay as background noise, no dirty dishes piling up around me, just stillness, quiet, peace. It may sound cheesy, but this had a profound effect on the rest of the day. I knew that no matter how important a project was to me, I could never stay inside for the rest of my life and miss out on the beauty of the nature around me. The way that the sun paints the bark of the trees, causing the snow to shine and sparkle. The way that the massive trunks of trees tower over me like pillars in a cathedral. I was surrounded by art, by beauty in its most primal state. Dare I say that there can be no art without nature. It connects with something deep inside that triggers inspiration. At least I know that that's the case for me. So even though I got more work done drawing in the past 2 weeks than in the past 4 years, I will never do it again as long as I can help it.
Right after writing that, I realized that I had forgotten my key to get back into the building, and so I had to stand awkwardly outside and wait for someone to come back and let me inside. Luckily, this was only about 5 minutes, but it was embarrassing nonetheless. But let's get into some final thoughts. If there's anything that I've learned in the making of this video, it's that manga artists are inches away from death at any given moment. And this is what happens when an artist's passion is seen as a product and people are turned into gears in a machine that turns dreams into money. But I kind of get why they do it. This was an incredibly physically and mentally taxing 2 weeks, but the feeling that you get of working on something that you love is almost enough to make up for the atrocious work conditions that you're forced into. I took so long to make those first 12 pages because I wanted everything to be perfect. I would finish a page, time would pass, I would look back at that page, and I would be better at drawing, so I would redo the whole thing. But another thing that I've learned, and something that I hope you take away from this, is to make whatever you want. But you have to actually make it. Not imagine it in its perfect state, or focus on how receptive people will be, but to actually bring it to life in a real way. There's no barrier for entry for being creative. And once you start, you only get better. And it'll never be perfect, because perfect doesn't exist. So if you have something that you want to make, something that you want to pursue, absolutely do it. Just maybe don't lock yourself inside like I did. Anyway, thanks for watching.
Cultivate hunger before